preacher's gone and I'm left here jilted on the church house lawn. Through the old graveyard, I'm gonna walk around and bury my heart where it won't be found. 6 foot under, 6 foot under, 6 foot under, down in the cold, cold ground.
Whoa, it's good, anybody out there? This is your friendly Crimson Stain, and this is a Gravewax mini episode where we're just going to run down a few things I've been watching, collector style, and then I'll reveal what will be the next movie we review on the next episode, and it'll be recorded in with very bad audio, so I thought that's a real winner, so we'll try that here on the old Instagram TV. So the first thing we're going to talk about is something that's not horror and is completely basic, and you no doubt already know about. But I went ahead and for the first time ever, I've had this box set of all the first 6 Star Wars movies forever, and I only watched the first 3, or the original 3, because those were the ones I grew up with, and it's basically just an exercise in nostalgia, or it was, until now, because there is a new podcast that I would definitely recommend. It's called the Mose Eisley Happy Hour, and it's a very good podcast that are covering all the Star Wars movies in pretty much sequential order, and they're starting with the prequels, and so that got me to finally watch them, and it was pretty amazing. I guess so I guess it just hit me at the right time. I picked out the right time to watch these. The Phantom Menace, my disc was a bit defective. It kept freezing up and wouldn't play the last 45 minutes. But that movie isn't so great, but then the other 2 really picked up, and I really enjoyed watching the all the backstory being filled in, and everything is kind of a reference to stuff that happened in the original films. And that was, everyone thought that was, I've always heard that was something that people shit on, and I ended up really enjoying it. So that's just me once again being the contrarian, and it was fine. Now I haven't seen any of the these recent Disney Star Wars films, and I think I'll avoid those for maybe 15-20 years, and then it'll be time. Of course, I plan to be dead by then. So anyway, Star Wars, you know the deal. So after I watched all the Star Wars movies, I ended up watching the 1978 Superman movie, and then that still wasn't enough, so I put on Dune and watched that and enjoyed that. I heavily enjoyed this movie, especially after watching Star Wars, since I think Star Wars was heavily influenced by Frank Herbert, and I think it's pretty obvious when you watch these films. And then for this movie to come out after Star Wars, it all makes an interesting melange, you might say. And this movie is obviously not as popular. It didn't have a lot of toys and merchandise and stuff associated with it, but it's still pretty good. The sets are great. The costumes are great. Most of the special effects are pretty good. So I think it's it's in the same league, basically. It's just not the crowd favorite, but it's also pretty good. All right, we're in prime Gravewax territory now. It couldn't be more Gravewax appropriate than this film here. This is I Bury the Living from 1958. This is an excellent film. Scream Factory Blu-ray here that it just went out of print just as I got some gift cards for Christmas. So I ended up buying this with a gift card, and it was pretty good. I've heard about this movie for years. It's a very interesting setup. It's kind of unique to 50s horror, but it has a great 50s vibe. It's from 58, so it's late 50s. It's not so much a monster movie as it is a strange mystery about a guy who basically ends up running a cemetery, and he thinks that he's causing some unnatural deaths by his actions, and it's an insane mystery. It really pulls you in as to what the hell is going on. I'll say no spoilers, but I will say that the reveal is not quite as amazing as the build up, but didn't really matter because it's a really cool movie, and I really like the Like I say, just the 50s aesthetic here. It's a great addition to the collection there. So I would recommend you check this film out. It's a great indie. It's kind of an indie film too. It makes you feel a little bit like a Carnival of Souls or a Night of the Living Dead, but just with different subject matter entirely. This film is from the 70s, early 70s. It's called The Other. And this is a very cool, strange film. It has like this nostalgic feel because it's set in like I think the 40s, and it has all these great 40s references. You know, it feels like you were there, even down to the 40s dad jokes that some of the characters tell. And this is a story about an evil kid, or is he evil? We don't really know. Again, there's a bit of a mystery. Him and his twin brother. Now, the way this is shot, because of all the movies that have come after it, you're going to see one of the twists coming a mile away. And don't let that discourage you from watching the film and enjoying it. It's still very enjoyable. There's a lot of creepy mystery and untimely deaths. And then there's an added extra reveal that I think is quite worthy and more than makes up for the fact that this basic premise has been ripped off 100 times. But this is a great film nevertheless. If you're into this period of horror, you may have never even seen this one. So I would recommend you check it out if you can't get enough early 70s horror. Here's another really cool Scream Factory Blu-ray. This is The Town That Dreaded Sundown. I've had this for a while and I've watched it periodically, but there is a bonus feature or a bonus movie that I had never watched before but decided to check out. It's called The Evictors from '79. And this is an amazing film. I believe it does have its own release now, but this is definitely not a second-rate feature at all. It has great atmosphere. It's perfect. It's not quite a haunted house story. It's not quite a slasher, but it has an atmosphere of both. It's pretty amazing. And it has a lot of great actors in it. This is directed by Charles Pierce. These are both Charles Pierce movies. And you're getting certain, quality from his films. You're always going to get kind of twisted flashbacks. You're going to get classic cars. And you're going to get some pretty cool atmosphere and just general creepiness. He was very good at this. And this is set in a Louisiana, also back, I think this was also, well, it starts off, I think, in like maybe the 20s or something like that. It kind of reminds you of like The Beyond, another great Louisiana horror movie. And then it jumps to the 40s and back to the 30s and back and forth as they try to figure out the mystery of this strange haunted house. And it has a lot of great actors. It has Michael Parks and Jessica Harper, fresh from Suspiria. Very, just like the Town That Dreads Sundown has very creepy stalking, killing scenes. This one does too. And it's something that I think gets lost when you get into a lot of the more derivative teen slashers. They're not even capable of creating this amount of tension and horror and just making characters real, someone not necessarily that you even have to like quote unquote care about, but that just you see them, you can have some amount of empathy for their plight rather than you're showing up specifically to see them killed, which of course that's great too. Why choose? Know which film is which you're in the mood for. And this film also, since it's set in Louisiana, it has a couple of great Louisiana, they seem like real Louisiana residents they put in this film. They have great accents. You have to really listen to hear what they're saying. And I love that type of authenticity as well. This one also has a surprise twist that I guessed a little bit of it, but it actually did finally get me. And I was surprised by the final reveal, which was very satisfying. So The Evictors is great. Town That Dreaded Sundown, also a good film. If you like one, you'll probably like the other. This one, it's not quite a slasher. It's still a little bit too early for that. The tropes haven't really been established, but it's a great serial killer movie. And my personal opinion is it was very possible that this Arkansas killer might have went dormant for a little while and reemerged as the Zodiac. It's a very similar MO there, so it's possible. But it'll never be proven. But there's one thing you can prove. These are great films. All right, here's my last review, and this is Mandy. And this was one of the first movies I watched in the stack of films, and this really set up my anticipation and enjoyment of all the other fantasy, sci-fi, and horror films in the stack here, because this one has it all. This is like a Pulp Fiction story come to life in this extremely twisted psychedelic style. It's great. It has a lot of meaning. You can kind of put your own interpretation in it. It's not a lot of dialogue, but just enough. It is a good story, but it's not overly it's not over engineered, so to speak. It really lets the visuals take its the forefront, and it's still a very great film. It's pretty amazing. It's more of an experience, rather than something you can just describe how cool it is. And as you can see, my Blu-ray, it's a bit banged up. That's the way it came. That's just the Amazon life for you. But I decided not to return it and try to get a more mint version, because this is a film. It's kind of like this kind of embodies the spirit of Mandy. It's a little bit beaten up, but it's still very shiny. Maybe that's my best review I can probably give this film. It's classic, crazy Nicolas Cage. So I mean, you kind of know what you're getting into, but you still won't believe your eyes. Basically, it's a great film, and I've been reading a lot of Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, and Pulp Fiction writers, and I think that this is a fitting tribute to that type of storytelling as well. So definitely watch Mandy. I watched it completely sober, and it's still very enjoyable, although it is truly a psychedelic film. So now we'll reveal what's going to be the next film we review on the podcast proper, and it is from the 80s, and it is Evictions. Probably the best film ever made. I mean, you can put this up against Gone with the Wind, Casablanca, whatever crappy Criterion Collection film you think is important. It's really not compared to Pieces. So this is the movie we'll be doing. The only question is, will I be able to cover it all in just one episode, or will there be multiple parts, perhaps 7 or 8? We'll see. We'll see how the discussion goes. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you'll be there when we release it. Sometimes these things take a month or two to come out, but I'll try to not have it take that long. So anyway, this has been the very first Gravewax podcast mini episode. I think it went very well and was not awkward at all, and there's no room for improvement, so this is the best it'll ever be. So thanks for watching. Thanks for putting up with this commentary. Don't let it affect your opinion of the films. Hope you check them out if they catch your fancy, and we'll see you next time.
6 foot under, 6 foot under, down in the cold.